Last 3 days now, we've been hearing accounts from people affected by those attacks in the Westgate shopping centre. But let's discuss the effect on Kenya a little bit more with my guests here in the studio, Kasim Kaira from BBC Swahili and Michaela Wrong, who's a former foreign correspondent based in Kenya. Welcome to you both again. And I mean, just the bad luck, as it were, that Kenya has, being in this geographical location with Somalia in that state north of the border, and these attacks, what they do for Kenya's reputation, Michaela.
Yeah, I mean, they have a terrible impact, for example, on tourism, which is the second biggest foreign exchange earner of the country. And it's going to be a particular brutal blow because Kenya's just come through a very tense election period. And during that election period, a lot of tourists went instead of going on safari to Kenya, they went to Tanzania, they went to South Africa. And so a lot of, I've written on the subject and talked to lodge owners, and they say, you know, all our bookings were down. It's been a brutal 18 months. And they were so pleased that the elections were over and then it was going to pick up. Then they have this blow that was dealt them already with the burning down of the International Departures Lounge, which has meant that tourists had to be processed in marquees, basically, on the runway. That's gone remarkably smoothly, considering. But this is going to just be massive in its implications. I mean, it takes years for tourist industries to recover from this kind of thing.
Particularly when you see an attack on a soft target like this, when it is just people with women and children and enjoying themselves in a leisure, and also being many foreigners involved. This is very off-putting for potential.
It's a soft target. It's a target that a lot of Western tourists will have visited because it is so international. It's got Wi-Fi and it's cafes. It's where you go to buy international newspapers. It's where you go to buy that lovely bric-a-brac that you can pick up in Kenya. It's a very nice, appealing mall, which always had a very big Western, customer base. And so this will mean something to people who've been to Kenya. They can't say it doesn't affect me, and that's where it has its impact.
And Kasim, when we look at pictures, this is, you know, flagship shopping mall looking like this in such a tragic circumstances. The Kenyan sense of frustration, is there one? Is there one that the authorities should have done more or should be doing more on an ongoing basis so that they aren't at the mercy of this again and again over the years?
You'd almost have imagined that would have been the first response. But for once, many Kenyans have come together. I mean, they're coming with that whole logo, "We are one." Everybody has tried to put together. And the first thing, because the first impression was painted, was that these terrorists, when they arrived, they said Muslims get out and the rest stay in. That was the first picture that was painted. Of course, with more survivors who came from the shopping mall, that is becoming less and less. And many people went straight ahead and said, we have to live beyond this. Let not religious hatred come in at a time when we think we are sort of trying to get back together. It was amazing. The government was overwhelmed by the number of people who turned up to donate blood. It was just amazing. They were overwhelmed. In fact, they were beginning to call up on other medical services to come and help with the blood collection. They were overwhelmed. In Eastleigh, which is predominantly Somali women came up and they opened up their own stalls to start donating blood. So it became suddenly a nationwide thing, and everybody was sort of trying to say, this is the moment. Opposition parties normally sort of thrive on such situations that would have said the government has failed, but the opposition came very quickly to stand hand in hand with the president to say, we have to keep the country together. I think that was very significant. It just comes out of that situation and you see a country trying to keep together. And the spirit of the Kenyans at this particular moment in time, I think, has been quite immense. You look on the social media, you just sort of see the messages that are coming. Everybody's saying, let nobody shake us. And you feel that coming through a lot of social media, a lot of the television stations. For once, you have people speaking with one voice, and I think that is quite crucial.
Yeah, Michaela, you're nodding. I'm just looking at Twitter. The tweets with the hashtag Westgate are coming literally every second. It is an absolutely huge story, followed inside and beyond Kenya.
And I think this rallying, which has been extraordinary, very heartwarming, shows you what Kenya can be like at its best. And really, it's in part because you have politicians who aren't playing the game of divide and rule. They're appearing on a public platform, you know, together. Uhuru Kenyatta, the man he has beaten in elections just 6 months ago and has sort of pretty thoroughly humiliated ever since, standing together on the platform together. and this is the Kenyan response, and this is of course seen as an attack from outside.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, in the past, when Kenya has torn itself apart during the 2007-2008 elections, it's been politicians playing off tribal differences, ethnic differences, and then it's been a very, very different scenario. But now we're all together against an outside enemy.
Kasim, just to interrupt you, I mean, are there people in Kenya who say our forces shouldn't be involved in AMISOM north of the border with the African Union troops because of these are the consequences that it's going to bring us? Or are the public widely behind the fact that Kenya is battling Islamic extremism north of the border in Somalia?
I think initially there might have been that feeling, but now this particular situation has created even the urgency now to say we need to go in there, we need to flush them out. We've already pushed them into out of some areas. We can actually do it. But beyond that, I think the problem now is the whole region now is at stake. You could think that Kenya has suffered this, but Uganda did suffer that during the World Cup when 77 people were killed watching the World Cup. Tanzania would have been safer because they don't have any troops inside Somalia. But these are rogue elements even within the Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab now, being splintered as it is now, they will use every opportunity. And in Tanzania earlier this year, we've had 2 bomb blasts in Arusha, which killed several people around the church. So nobody's really safe. And in Kampala now, they're talking about a lot of serious security around the shopping malls because these would be easy targets. These are public places where people gather. So that definitely is going to affect not only Kenya, but the region at large.
Kasim Kayira and Michaela Ronga, I wish we had more time. Thank you very much for your chat about Kenya and the implications of what we've been seeing in Nairobi.